So our speaker tonight is Marc-Andre Valiquette. In 1975, he started his pilot's course at Chicoutimi College, Saguenay, and then enters the Canadian Forces to become a military pilot. In 1976, he graduates from Canadian Forces Officer Training School in Chilliwack and from the Canadian Forces English School in Borden. In 1977, he graduates from the Canadian Forces Primary Flying School at Portage La Prairie, Aero Medical School at Winnipeg, and Canadian Survival Training School at Nanaimo and Comox. He then starts jet training on CT-114 Tudor aircraft at Moose Jaw. However, an internal ear problem cut short his dream of becoming a pilot. From 1978 to 1983, he got his college diploma in pure sciences, Montmorency College, Laval, starts university in hydrology at UQAM. He goes back to aerospace technical design and manufacturing. He graduates from l'École Nationale d'Aérotechnique in May 1983. And then 83 to 84, he worked at Nordyne Norseman Aerospace in Cartierville on cockpit manufacturing for the Canadair Challenger. From 1985 to 2016, he worked at CAE Inc., the world leader in flight simulators. In more than 31 years of service, he worked with the manufacturing group, the simulator infield installation group, as manufacturing engineer, as customer service representative, and as project manager on military simulators. Marc-Andre is an aviation writer. His pictures have been seen in numerous aerospace magazines such as Aviation Week, Airlines, Legion Magazine, Aviation Quebec, and Magasin Plein Vol. He attended his first air show in 1973, and his passion for aviation has never faded since that time. He is the author and publisher of 4-volume series, Destruction of a Dream, The Tragedy of the Avro Canada, and the CF-105 Aero. The series is bilingual and a first that tells the story of the Avro Canada Company from its birth in 1938 to its demise in 2003. The Interceptor CF-105 Aero is the main subject of the series. Marc-Andre is also the author and publisher of the following books: 425 Alouette Squadron, Je te plumerai, 439 Squadron History, Fangs of Death, Bagotville 75 Years of Air Defense, which he presented on last year here, 430 Squadron, I'm going to mess up the Latin, so I'm not going to try, and then Avro CF-105 Supersonic Sentinel. Please join me in welcoming Marc-Andre.
Thank you very much, Kat, for the introduction. So I'm going to do a presentation on 430 Squadron. The squadron motto is swiftly and surely. It's in Latin, Celeritur Certoque. So that's the last book. I did the launch in September 2010. There were 75 years of history, January 1st, 1943 to January 1st, 2018. So as you can see, the squadron started as a reconnaissance squadron back in England on January 1st, 1943. So I just put that slide there. All the slides are from the book, so randomly. So those are the 3 main contributors to the book. Richard Giroir, who's been part of all the other books, providing documentation, but mostly all the, I think there's maybe 800 pictures in the book. So he always clean them up and ends the pictures. Laurier Soulard, who was part of the squadron for many years, and now he's the vice president of the Silver Falcon Foundation. And Martin Cormier, who's an aviation journalist, and who had written a series of articles in a French magazine, which I used some of his work there. So, and he did a lot of research for me as well. So the usual there, I put the picture at the, since it's my book and I paid for it, so I always put my face in the book there. So, so that's my preface there, and that's my Spitfire Mark III 1969. It's just that the base commander, the change of command in July 2017, he was posted to England as the air attaché to the embassy. And I drove my car from Montreal. It's 5 hours and it's a right-hand drive car. It comes from New Zealand. So I drove all through Quebec City and up to the park and going up to Chicoutimi. And we did the parade with the car there. He was sitting in the back there. So it was pretty nice. So you see it says 13th of September. This is when we did the launch of the book during the 75th anniversary reunion that lasted 3 days. So here's the table of contents. So of course you got the war at war in Europe, 43 to 45. Then the day fighter role for NATO with the Sabre, the Canadair Sabre from 51 to 63. Then the breaking the sound barrier, 63 to 70. And then since 1971, they are tactical transport and support helicopter squadron for the forces. I'll explain to you why that big change back in 1970. So the book, the usual, is printed and bound in Canada, which I'm very proud of. It's all paid by me as well. No subsidies, either private or government. And I'm very proud to say as well that they're printed and bound in Canada by Friesen in Altona. So 430 Squadron starts as the third and final reconnaissance fighter for the Royal Canadian Air Force back in January 1st, 1943. The first couple of months, mainly most of the time they're flying Mustangs, the reconnaissance version. And this is a squadron, most of the squadron flying over England when they were practicing before D-Day, 28th of June, 1943. So the first few months they're training on KTOC aircraft, which come from, most of them come from 414 Squadron, also based in England. And so they got the aircraft from 414 Squadron, and 414 gets the Mustang. You will see, I mean, I know some of you are very keen on details. I mean, the only pictures I've been able to find in 20 months of research and going into the files is the KTOC aircraft. There's none, I've not been able to find any picture in flight of 430 Squadron KTOC aircraft. It's always 414. The only pictures you'll see in the book of 430 Squadron KTOCs are always crashed aircraft, unfortunately. So,
stand still.
No, that's it. So they only fly the aircraft for 3 months, and then they change right away to the Mustang, the reconnaissance version. You see the camera in the back there, and of course a couple of pictures from the commanding officer. So their role is to gather information for the Allied forces for the upcoming D-Day landing, you know, which is going to happen in June 1944. So this is typical of pictures that they take over the beaches of Normandy. There's a lot of pictures on these. 430 was part of 39 reconnaissance wing. The squadron, like many squadron of the Air Force squadrons during the war, they were affiliated with a Canadian city. And you'll see in the book, Sudbury requested or sent an invitation to the squadron back in January 1944 to become their sponsor city. So in January 1944, the squadron is linked to Sudbury, Ontario. So they're going to move from a couple of places in England up to D-Day. And doing reconnaissance, of course, I mean, it's not like a SR-71 at 85,000 feet. So they were doing reconnaissance at a very low level. And you see one here, and you see, I kept here the information. You know, it says it's 430 Squadron, 18th of February, 1944. And you'll see it better in a book. That's one page of the book there. You see a lot of trucks and everything. And those are the army preparing or doing maneuvers, you know, in preparation for the landing. invasion. And in the back of the picture there, they were mentioned that they were not supposed to take any picture of the preparation, and the aftermath is the pilots were grounded, and the commanding officer was slapped on the end there for having his pilot taking picture of the preparation. And you'll see here, you know, doing low level, I mean, there was always dangers of hitting trees or cable lines, and that's what happened there. High tension cable, the Mustang, it came back. So a lot of, apart from reconnaissance flight, they also do reconnaissance mission of targets that have been destroyed, and they call it nutball missions. They go and take pictures of the bombing of V1 sites. This V1 here, that's it. Whoops, sorry, that's in Doxford. So right after those pictures are at D-Day, a couple of days after. One is taken by 430 Squadron on the right there. You see, you see the always the wrong button. You see the trace, you know, of tanks and everything in the bombing. And 430 Squadron, 18th of July, you know, 6,000 feet. And then here, that's one taken by RAF Squadron 168, which was also a reconnaissance squadron, 17th of July. And you'll see in the book there, because that's fading in the book, but those are all gliding, the gliders that have been, you know, landing at the, the field is there's a lot of those gliders there. So as the troops progresses into France and then Belgium and then Germany, the squadron follows like all the other squadrons. They follow the troops, and they go into Germany slowly but surely. So you see here the Spitfire. A Spitfire, they got, this is not a 430 Squadron, but this is a Spitfire from the 39 wing, reconnaissance wing. By December 44, early January 1945, they transferred to the Spitfire FR Mark 14 fighter reconnaissance with the Griffin engine. You see the 5-bladed there, very powerful aircraft. And those are from 430 Squadron. Again, very hard to find. Was one of my contact there from Aviology, who does those decals. I don't remember his name, so we traded information. And so for the last couple of months of the war there, they're going to fly the Spitfire. You have a good view here of the 5-bladed with the Griffin engine. Another one at the bottom there from 430 Squadron. As usual, throughout my books, I got people who did painting for the books there. Peter Robichaud, and Marc, what's his name there? I forgot. It's there. Marc Aymon, who did different, you know, different kind of style. So, and by the end of the war, the last few months, it's not only reconnaissance, but they do fighter, they go fight against targets, trains, and tanks and everything. It's not just reconnaissance anymore. And even, you know, like this guy here, Flight Lieutenant Middleton in April of 1945, even has the chance to get down, shoot down a Focke-Wulf 119 near Ulgen in Germany. And at the top there, the pictures there, this is at one of the field where they captured, you know, when they were stationed at the end of the war, Lunenburg, B-156. So you see the captured German aircraft on the field there. So, like many of the squadron after the war, they stood down there, and the Cold War will bring back a lot of squadron, and 430 Squadron gets back in business in the fall of 1951. The Canadian government has committed the Air Force with 12 squadron to support the NATO, 12 squadron of Sabre, Canadair Sabre in Europe, and 430 Squadron is one of them. So this is like this page here is actually on the I think on the left side it's a painting. So you can see the usual, that's the French page, but the captions are bilingual, and you got the page in English as well. So the squadron is reformed in November of 1951 at North Bay, and they are equipped with Sabre Mark II, and you see the flash there, and they get the Falcon in the back there. And from North Bay, they're going to fly to France, where they're going to be based at Gros-Tanquin, north of France, northeast, with 2 wings. Their first squadron commander is squadron leader, Wing Commander Edwards, who was I think a Spitfire pilot during the war. Well, very well known. He's got a very long career with the forces. He still lives, I think, in Victoria, BC. So before they go to France, they got big exercise in like this one in Bagotville, Bagotville. No, it's still North Bay. So they go to Bagotville, where they fly missions there in preparation. It's nice to see their helmet back in 1952. You know So here's you got the order to move from 8th of August 1952, from North Bay to Gros-Tanquin, and this is the official. At Auckland they got a big parade on September 22nd, 1952. I think with 421 and 416. You know that famous picture with 57 Sabre. It's in the book there. And surprisingly, they're called the Silver Falcon Squadron, but their first mascot is a dog. It's called Pogo. It didn't last long. That's the only picture I was able to find. Here's the famous picture at Auckland's there. You got, if I'm correct here, that's 430 Squadron, and you got 421 and 416, 57 aircraft altogether. So they were part of, if I remember correctly, Leapfrog 2 exactly, which was the missions to fly those birds out to France. So they arrived there again. I had good collaborator back in Europe, Fabrice Loubet, who runs a website there, and he has written a book on Gros-Tanquin. And I was able to find some colored pictures of Sabre 2 in operating in France. And this one here is even at Le Bourget on the air show on July 5th, 1953. One thing you can see as well is those Mark IIs at the American engine, which was a lot of smoke. And so, of course, they protect the airspace, the Western airspace there. When they arrive there, there's no hangar that are completed, but it takes a couple of months, and then finally they got their maintenance hangar, and you see some of the Sabres being maintained. The Mark IIs were all silver, and the first Mark V as well, but then they get the Mark VI, and so they go all over the place in Europe, in Rabat in Maroc or in Sardinia for practicing as well. This guy here, by the way, Thériault, will become, that's in 1955, it will be one of the pilots that year of the Sky Lancer, which has 2 aircraft with the BH code, which is 430 Squadron. And he will become the chief of the air staff in late 1960s, early 1970s. So as I was mentioning, in 1955, the Sky Lancer is 2 wings, Gros Tanquin, and you got 2 birds from 430 Squadron, and AX is 421 Squadron. The year after 1956, it's going to be I think it was 1 wing. I'm not sure. Anyway, the aircraft crashed during practice in March 1956, and the pilots were killed. So that Sky Lancer came to an end. So of course, in late 1950s, with the Sabre Mark 6 now, I mean, you got the Orenda engine in the aircraft. The Canadian pilot, the Sabres were the kings of the sky there. And this is an actual pictures of RCF Sabres, you know, practicing at high altitude. And they were very on top there in those days. And this is in Gros Tanquin at the bottom there, 430 Squadron. Now you see the Silver Falcon, the bird in the back, on the tail, sorry. Again, doing exercise, and they do, of course, they shoot at target there. And you see that the pilots, you know, after the run, they look at the how you call it, not the flag, the drogue. That's it, and he looks at his, you know, the bullet holes. You know, that's how they could see the score they had. Again, great picture as well, because, you know, to make a squadron, it's not only pilots, but you need technicians, you need different people with different skill and trades, so to make it happen. It's not in the presentation there, but you'll find in the books I was able to get access to the NATO Phototech with pictures of, you know, they went there for a couple of days and they took hundreds of pictures. And you can see a stage because the pilots are always smiling and laughing, but they run to their aircraft and they wait for the phone call, and you know, so I was able to do a couple of, to spread the pages there. So by the late 1950s and early 60s, of course, the Sabre there is not no match against the new aircraft, supersonic aircraft coming into service. So Canada selects the CF-104 Starfighter to replace the Sabre. So the 430 stands down in Gros Tanquin on May 22nd, 1963. And then that's a PR shot there, because that's not an aircraft from 430 Squadron, that's 104. Well, that's one of the early 104 that went to Europe for photo and everything, so you see that aircraft very often. So 1963, 1970, breaking the sound barrier. So they get their first aircraft by the 104 by late 1963. And you can see that it becomes the 430 becomes a nuclear strike squadron. So they will be armed with the nuclear weapons and doing the nuclear strike. So some of the birds arrived by C-130 Hercules in November 63. But the first aircraft to actually land, that's the picture there. It's a squadron leader, Knight, 430 commanding officer, who lands the first aircraft at the Gros Tanquin in October 1963. So they still continue to do a lot of mission in Decimo Manu in Sardinia. And this is again a very rare picture because they were only for 5 months in Gros Tanquin before they closed the base. So this is the flight they did for the civilian there, for the French political people there and the civilian of Gros Tanquin. So they did some fly pass there. So it's nice to see, you know, the the aircraft, which is so sleek, and you look at the cars there in the back. So they of course, with our NATO partners, so they participate in a lot of training mission and everything. And this picture is taken at the Air Sand competition of 1964. So between the squadron of the NATO squadron, so they do some competition where they practice bombing and they make scores. So you got can go around there, but you got 104 German, 104 Netherlands, a Javelin from the RAF, F-105 Thunder Chief from the U.S. Air Force, CF-104 Canada, Belgium 104, and a Mirage 3 from France. So usually Canada was pretty good, and and of course they were the Silver Falcon. This is from their squadron books. Had a lot of information from their historical books. There's their scrapbook. So by February 1964, the base closes in France, and they move to Saarbrücken in Germany. And those pictures here, they show you when they do practice, with, well, depending on the sources, they say it's either a practice bomb or a real one, but you can see the security, the American and the Canadian, and the loading, they practice the loading of the bomb there. And one of their commanding officer, that's why I put the page here, is squadron leader Fern Villeneuve, who was the commanding officer of the Golden Ox in 1959. So Saarbrücken will close as well in January 1968 as an Air Force base. So they moved to Lahr, Germany, which is very close. And this is the last flypast from the 104-430 squadron over Saarbrücken. And this is when they arrive at Lahr that same morning. They won't be there for long. This is the last group picture. They won't be there, as I mentioned, for long, because in late 1969, the Trudeau government, the father, of course, decides, they cuts a lot on the defense budget. So half of the 104 squadron are disbanded, and 430 squadron is part of them. So their last group picture, as I mentioned. So what happens after is that they are reformed as a tactical helicopter squadron in support of the army, and they are based in Valcartier, which is north of Quebec City, maybe 35 kilometers. And they're going to be equipped with Kiowa helicopters and CH-135. The Kiowa will be used as an observation helicopter, and of course the transport of the troop and the small armament, small cannon and everything. CH-135. For a while, it's in the book here, it's not in the presentation. They're going to be bit more, it's there, okay. So before they get they first get the CH-135, and then a couple of months after, they get their Kiowa. So in the meantime, they're going to fly the L-19 in conjunction with the 5th Artillery Group of Canada. And the aircraft will be based not at Valcartier, but at l'Ancienne Lorette, which is Quebec's airport. And they're going to do as well observation with the Cessna 182. Those are based in Saint-Hubert. For the people who know their place, this is Gagetown in 1968, just to show the air type of aircraft. So those are the first CH-135 when they arrive in November 1971. So of course it's a completely new mission. I mean, so they're not just flying those choppers. They have to live like army people because they're in the field with those guys. So they learn, the fire, machine guns and rifle, and of course they are self-sustained. So they have their own trucks, their own equipment to follow the chopper, and then of course they do training and all kinds of weather. Like I mentioned, they got their truck, so you see here, they do an exercise here in January of 1972, and it's their first exercise. And when they do it, there's a snowstorm, and it brings in 2 days 120 inches of snow. So that was their first big exercise with the army. Of course, being in Quebec City, they support mostly Royal 22e Régiment. Yeah. So a couple of pictures, from over Quebec City. That's 427 Squadron from Petawawa. They're flying over Ile des Sœurs. I mean, if you go on Google and find a picture of Ile des Sœurs today, I mean, and this is Champlain. They're going Bonaventure Autoroute there. So, sometimes I put picture of other squadron because you cannot find picture of that time at that moment of the squadron. So I talk about a bit of the other squadron. But 427 is doing exactly the same job. So one of the first big exercise or mission was supporting the Olympics back in 1976. With, of course, all the other squadron, chopper squadron. So you see flying with the, which one is it? The Fraser there in the back, and over in Montreal Harbor. And this is all 430. Kaya was in Twinoué's station at Saint-Hubert in July 1976. And of course, you see here over the, easy to spot because the stadium is not finished. So that's 1976. And you see that they're flying with the Chinook, which, did I put the squadron? No, they're part of 10th Tactical Air Group, so I don't know, maybe 447, 450, another one, I think they were. I don't remember. It's called Operation Gainscan. So 1977, it's they got their colors, so they do a big show in Valcartier. Of course, you can see the heliport there in the back because it's not an airfield. It doesn't have a long runway, but it's a completely new heliport. And you can see in the back there. There's a runway, but it's a dirt runway. It's used by otters and other aircraft, to bring for the army, or the Buffalo can land there as well. So this is the actual parade, and they had a big party there for the presentation of their colors. And that's the saber that is there. The saber there. That's a Mark II, but never belonged to 430, but it was on a pedestal in Saint-Jean at the base there. And they got it back and they brought it to Valcartier. They refurbished it and they put it kind of colors of 430 Squadron. So by the end of 1970s, early 1980s, they go back a lot of missions. They go up north to ensure the presence of Canadian forces up north. So 1 year is a squadron, another year it's 430. So they go there. They got their fuel cache. They make like I said, they live there, so they have to make their igloos and everything. And you see here this one of the mission at Rayport. It's Millville Island in March 1981. If I remember, I think that the caption also mentioned was minus 45 Celsius. See, those pictures were provided by Raymond Falardeau, who's the curator of the Voltigeur Museum there in Quebec City, and he was part of 430 in those days. So 430 is, as I mentioned, they always participate in several campaigns with 12 RBC, which is Régiment Blindé du Canada, and Royal 22e Régiment. And in 1986, they even go to Europe to support NATO, the northern flank. So they put the aircraft on boat and they bring them there. And this picture here, at first I thought it was in Valcartier, but it's in Norway during the mission there This is in Norway. You can see, they land not paratrooper, but army people. And so that's really their main role there. So going forward, you got the Oka Crisis back in 1990, and believe it or not, it was very hard to find pictures of these. I mean, sometimes it's easier to find pictures from the 1950s or during Second World War, but as you come closer, I mean, they don't do any more scrapbook because everything is digital and nobody finds nothing. So it was we found those at the last minute. And this is the actual troop there of the Royal 22e Regiment in Oka. And you see a 430 Kiowa doing an observation patrol, and this is the church at Oka. Of course, this is a good picture showing the soldier being airlifted in let's say January 1990. They used to call those exercises nez rouge, like red nose, but since the I would say mid 1980s, early 1990s. Opération Nez Rouge for the Christmas season. They bring people back with taxis because they're drunk. So they had to change the name of those. So now it's called Rafale Blanche. White wind, whatever. So they had no choice because it wasn't a good. So by 1991, they get rid of the CH-135 twin Ewing. And you can see the colors as well changes on the Kiowa, and the reason is that they're going to get the Griffin helicopter. 1993, they only have the Kiowa. They got 50 years of service. I mean, not continuous because a couple of years of the late 1940s. But they repainted that's the same saber. They repainted the saber once again, and they did a celebration there, painting that Kiowa there. Pretty neat color. So this is the last flight of the Kiowas. They got, I don't remember, 16? I think they got 16 Kiowas. It's in the book there. So anyway, they fly the remaining Kiowas from Quebec, Valcartier to Saint-Hubert Airport in one shot. And they ended those over to 438 Squadron, the reserve squadron, July 1995. So the last part of the book is the last era, which is in support of 10 Tactical Air Group and First Wing, because now they're part of First Wing. The wings are back since 1993, and they fly the Griffin helicopter. I always try, at the opening, like I said, the image in the book on the left side, it's always a painting. On the right side, I try to find a picture which strikes the eye there. So you see, they're doing their delivery of the soldier there by rappelling there. So they got that's their first. That's not their first one, but it's number 430, the Griffin helicopter. So they get their 18 aircraft, 18 helicopter. They got their first on 10th of October 1993. Number 424. So again, the first few months it's getting, they practice with the new type of helicopter, and their first big mission is the Saguenay flood in 1996, and it's in the Bagotville book as well. But what I found for this book is really those are 430 choppers landing at Bagotville in support of the operation there to help the civilian. They do it almost every year now. I mean, they're doing it in Quebec and Ontario with the floods. They did it 2 years ago. It's in the book, and now they're doing it again this year. So, and this is the actual the river there, Rivière des AA, which is in Labbé, which is east of Bagotville, And this is in Chicoutimi there, where the big flood with the houses and the church, and if you find in the internet or whatever, the only house still standing everywhere is that, exactly this one there. It's a museum now. It's the White House. That's the only one that stood there. So as the turn of the century arrives, they go into mission. The role of Canada expand, internationally, and it's not always CF-18, but you got a lot of mission, and could be a rescue mission or support mission, and that's what happened when they go to Haiti to help with other countries to, it's called Operation Constable here. They are in Haiti or Jamaica to help either the government or the Air Force there. And what's this is that when they flew by, that's 1997, of course they requested to do the fly pass in New York near the Twin Towers, but some people knew about it and some people didn't knew about it, and it scared a lot of people, and that's 4 years before the actual... Wait.
I was the flight lead on that flight.
Oh, bon.
So we flew 5 aircraft through the city. We wanted to go east of Manhattan,
Okay.
but we were plugged by the airspace of Lake Worthia. So we had to go down and up East River and return. And it created a bit of a diplomatic incident.
Yes, so exactly.
The thing is, we had the mandate for the 3 months only. And Mr. Fowler, who was Canadian ambassador for the Minister of National Defense, was sweet-talking the People's Republic of China ambassador to say, we really need to extend the mandate for 6 months to assist those people. And the ambassador was pissed off because Haiti had recognized Taiwan as a self-governing
Oh, okay. All right.
and they were basically putting roadblocks, said, we'll veto this, it won't go.
Okay.
And Mr. Fowler says, turn around, says, our presence will be discreet. As he says that, there's 5 Griffin going by his window.
You know?
It caused a bit of that.
Yeah, Dubai was part of 430 for many years. So and like finding that picture, I had pictures where I think they are over the Hudson River, but I mean it didn't look right with the Twin Towers. Well, this one looked right, so I had to do some choice of picture there. This is what is neat when you're the publisher and everything. You not just write the book, but you choose and you do what you want with it. So of course, I was mentioning, doing Arctic sovereignty. 1 year they go on an island and they put the flag, and a couple of months after, I think it's the Danes, who goes there and they remove the flag and they put their flag, and so anyway, they go there almost every year. And depending on the mission, like this is the ice storm of 1998. It's hard to see there, but you see it here. Some of the electric pylons are completely down. Again, that was very hard to find pictures of those. I mean, you see, 430 was in support of 438 Squadron, which is based in Saint-Hubert. So it's always like when they have a summit, a political summit, like I think there was one, I would say in Ontario, I don't remember the place. The squadron who was in charge is the squadron in Borden. 400. So 430 provides pilots, of course, and choppers, and they are under the responsibility of that squadron. So in 1998, of course, the big squadron, it's already there in Montreal, so 430 was helping them. And then, as I mentioned, in the late 1990s and early 2000s, so with support, we go to Bosnia and Kosovo again for NATO, and this is the actual base there in Bosnia. With those Griffins belong to 408 from CFB and Mountain. It's called the K4 there. So sometimes when I got the names, it's not always easy, but see there, Sergeant Bruno Saint Laurent, Flight Engineer, 430 Tactical Helicopter Squadron, keeps a watchful eyes while the CH-140 fix prepared to land in Kosovo there. And of course, the choppers were equipped with the flares there, just in case, they were being fired at. So the role becomes, very, like right now they are in Mali. 6 months it's another squadron, then they change it. It's 430 or depending. And so in 2005 they got the freedom of the city with Quebec City. So they do a big fly pass there. They prepare. You can see here they're coming about Ile d'Orléans. This is the Chute Montmorency, north of Quebec. And of course, flying over the Château Frontenac. It's all in the book there. You see with the mayor, Jean-Paul Lallier, the signatures and everything. So, and one of the big operations in the late year was Operation Athena, and Roto 7, which means rotation 7. So it means there's a lot of other squadrons that have been there before. So they provide either people or their own helicopter. And this is where they reintroduced the machine gun, and the guys got back their comment on l'appelle? Comment on appelle des gars qui tirent des guns en anglais? The air gunner patch for the first time since World War II. What they had to do, and that's 438 Squadron in Saint-Hubert who does that. They had to remove a lot of unnecessary pieces in the Griffin to put some steel plate for armor and to put that gun, which is very heavy. So, and it's all a 438 Squadron who does that. Like 438 does as well all the maintenance. It's supposedly a reserve squadron, but half of the people are regular, and presently they are they're in Mali. In Iraq, 438. So that's the first time the air gunner came back from since 1945 in the RCAF. 2005, the earthquake in Haiti. You see there doing relief work, bringing food and material to isolated village. And now that we got the C-17, they fit into the C-17, so they fly to Trenton, and then they are airlifted, 6th of January 2010. I was mentioning, in the G8 in Huntsville and in Toronto in 2010, you see it's 400 Squadron, which is reinforced by 403, 438, and 430 Squadron. Same thing for the Olympics in Vancouver, so on. They're always part, and they're all there. So again, this is kind of the operation they do. Of course, paratroopers, the army people, or practicing, with the combat diver from the 5th group there, the army. Again, going into Iraq there, during the support of Operation Impact. Some of the people from 430 as well were part of the first bunch of people who were in charge of those drone, not dispenser, the spurware. And they got one in the museum here, I think. We got great shot here, at 438. And people from the 2nd Air Movement Squadron, they can airlift three Griffin. Sometimes when they don't have the Globemaster, our own aircraft are not available, they're going to lease an Antonov 124 and bring those birds, the choppers to the area. This is the flood 2 years ago. Exactly the same place. That's near Berthierville there. This is the actual St. Lawrence Seaway, and this is on the other side. You see the field there, and so this is the actual 2 years ago. It's exactly the same. I'm doing a presentation on Saturday in Quebec City on the Arrow. It's for a fundraiser. And I'm not sure I'll be able to take the highway between Bagotville and Two Rivers because the highway is, you got water everywhere. So. And now Highway 20, there's a big construction and it's closed on one side, so they go on the other side, so it's clogged for miles. So well, I'll come back tonight and I'll see what I'll do. So of course, January 1st, 2018, so 75 years. So they painted, of course, number 430, which is the same aircraft we saw in 1995. You know, we keep our aircraft very long in Canada, choppers. So very nice painting there. And of course, the traditional, this is at the heliport there in Valcartier. This is painted on the tarmac, not that there, of course, and the squadron member did the 75 years there. And they have the guy who designed the painting and everything is Corporal Dan Raymond, who was part of 430 Squadron, was a technician as well with 425, and now he's the CEO of RCAF Association Squadron 302 in Quebec City. And he did some painting in the book, but he was the one who designed this for the anniversary. And I can see here, you see, this, I made a space here, so this is an error. That should be together. And the guy there, they painted a special helmet, special color, and they made a draw. I don't know if it worked by you had to buy a ticket or whatever there. Anyway, that's the guy who won the helmet there. So you see, as I was writing the book there, and when I finished last spring, 2018, that's it. They were preparing to go to Mali, and I mentioned it right here. They're still there. So great final there. They did a fly pass over Quebec City. You see the old town there in the back there. So, and with the new markings at the back there, Royal Canadian Air Force, Aviation Royale du Canada. So that's my latest book, as I mentioned. It's available if you want to buy it. Some people already bought it. So that's about it. Thank you very much.